Hey, what's up? Silas here. This video I'm going to be talking about some of comparisons between what's going on in Kenya and what's going on in the United States of America. If you've been following my channel, you've seen me talk about different political things going on in the United States of America around the presidency of Donald J. Trump, going up from the election to the actual post-election, and now we're a year into his presidency. And then currently now in Kenya, there was a contested election. I mentioned this back in August. The issue that happened with the election, excuse the noise. There was an election that came up, and then so in Kenya, you had the election of Uhuru Kenyatta going against the incumbent Uhuru Kenyatta going against Raila Odinga, has ran for the presidency of Kenya. I think in at least the last four elections, for at least 20 years. The elections in Kenya happened every 5 years. There's no electoral college, so it's just direct popular vote. Kind of the numbers you get are the numbers you get. In this last election, he claimed that the election was stolen. I have a video where I talked about that, where there were some situations with some people involved in the, I think, Internal Electoral Boundaries Commission or something. They're in charge of the election. Someone involved in that, deeply involved in that, was found dead in this mysterious death that I don't know if they actually found out the causes for it. So it went to the Supreme Court of Kenya, and the Supreme Court of Kenya found that yes, there were irregularities in the election of August 8th, and we're going to have another election. Then going up to the run-up of this election, there was different things: who's going to run, what's going to happen. Raila Odinga decided to boycott the election, said, "I'm not even going to run in it," and I think that was a ploy to kind of see if it's going to have delegitimize the actual election, see if Uhuru Kenyatta is going to come out, because they wanted to have kind of different rules and say, look, the same people who are running that first election that the Supreme Court of Kenya found to be illegitimate are the same people you're saying are going to now 30 days later won a legitimate one. He wanted the election pushed back to January or something. And he said, okay, I'm going to pull out of this one in the 26th, I think it was, of August or something. And it wasn't 26th of August, but there was one that was set there. I think it was 90 days or 60 days after the 8th election. Okay, so those actual numbers, I'll have links below to more details about that. But regardless, that happened, and then he pulled out, and then the Supreme Court didn't say we're going to push it back to January, and the election actually went through. Uhuru Kenyatta ran unopposed, and he got the presidency with about 2.5 to 3 million votes. It's arguably there's also some more machinations in who voted and whatnot in that situation, but in a country of about 45 million people, Kenya is a very young country. I think majority of the population is under 25 years of age or under 30 years of age. So the actual voting populace might only be about 15 to 20 million people. So regardless, you have about 10% to 5% of the population if you're talking about 2%. 10 to 5% of the actual people who could vote. 10%, sorry. 10% of the people who actually could vote decided the presidency of the country. Now, you have a situation in the United States of America where people are on like, my popular vote, Hillary Clinton won by 2 million people. Just those 2 million people, supposedly from probably New York City and a few cities in California, are the ones that gave her a popular vote, even though it's an electoral college system. They gave her that win. Just that 2 million people was enough to give Uhuru Kenyatta the presidency. So there's questions of how valid, how legitimate this presidency is, but according to the laws and the rules that were set out, he is the president of Kenya at this time. So right now, on the 30th of this month, January 2018, Raila Odinga and people involved in NASA and supporters of his are going to hold a swearing in of Raila Odinga. There's been a long resistance movement. Just how in the United States of America there's more resistance, talking about the fascists, talking about how Donald Trump needs to go. For a year, it's still been going on. The Women's March just had another anniversary of it. They came out again. More on those two, because I was at the first Women's March. Didn't have any of these. There was actually a Women's March in Nairobi back in January or 21st or 22nd of 2017. I'll have a video about that. But anyway, so they're having an actual inauguration of it. Imagine if Hillary Clinton decided like sometime in January or something. No, sometime a month or so after the actual inauguration of Donald J. Trump. So sometime in February, March, she decided to hold an inauguration on the mall. Decided to rent out the mall in Washington D.C. and have her own inauguration party and everything. Imagine how the country would take that. That's kind of what's happening here, except Hillary Clinton was the person who came from the DNC that actually rigged to get her position. This Marussia narrative has been falling apart. That's in a mess right now. There's a dossier or something that came out that was mentioned. Some congressmen have seen it and said it's very damning and could actually show a lot of corruption in the FBI. So regardless, I think a difference that's happening is in the United States of America, the resistance is the ones who are actually a lot more questionable than the actual presidency, the actual administration that's in. Here in Kenya, it seems to be where the administration is a lot more questionable than actually the resistance. But the resistance here involved boycotting things that are related with the Kikuyus. The Kikuyu, Uhuru Kenyatta is from the Kikuyu tribe. Kalenjin tribe is Ruto, the vice president. Was it William Isaac Ruto? No, William Ruto. Don't know what his middle name is, but well, I think it's Samoy or something. Regardless, not too important right now. So those two are two of the biggest tribes in Kenya. They have an alliance together, and they're running the country. So things like Brookside Milk, other things that are related to to the people, the powers that be right now, the people from the Luya and the Luo tribes, which are Raila Odinga's parties, people from Western Kenya, a lot of people from those tribes are now boycotting the things that are related to them. So there's the boycotts the same way there's people boycotting things in the United States of America that are related to Trump. If you're sure that you have Trump support, you get boycotts. There's now actually a pushback. People on the right are boycotting things that are too much to the left, like the NFL, people doing things like that. People are boycotting things on that end. So seeing those two things happening, it just shows how politics, people are humans. This is a human thing. This is not like white people are these like aliens, not like Africans, sub-Saharan Africans. This is the way people work. Corruption is a thing that happens. Politics is the kind of things that happen. But I just had a really interesting ride back in Uber. I just had some Ethiopian dinner with a cousin of mine. We're talking about politics. We're talking about different things, talking about work, talking about the changes that are going to happen in the country. Kenya is it's under 60 years old, so it's rather young. If you compare what was happening in some Western countries when they were this young, it's kind of an issue where I will see like, okay, you can't necessarily judge them. It's not apples and oranges. It's more like saplings and orchards, where developed countries are orchards. They've had a lot of history to build what they have. There's a lot of different facets in it, whereas developed countries are orchards. Developing countries like Kenya, these young countries, they're more like saplings in a nursery. It's still like, okay, they're still going to be going through certain challenges. But coming back in the Uber ride, I asked my driver also what he thought about this inauguration coming up. And he was talking about, he's actually from Western Kenya, so you'd assume that tribally wise, he would be supporting of Raila Odinga. And he was supporting him and he was understanding him. And we just had this conversation and we were talking about the differences and said, okay, Kenya's a young country. And he said, this thing that a lot of other people have said, a lot of other people I listen to on the right, that people consider alt-right on the right, like Stefan Molyneux has said this a lot, where he's talking about, Stefan Molyneux and other people have said this, people from these other countries have a blueprint. They can look at what happened in the United States of America, they can look at what happened in the American Revolution, they can look at what happened in the French Revolution, these other countries, and say, we don't have to go through those same things. We don't have to be like gangland the United States of America. We don't have to have a mayor that's completely tied into like criminal aspects, and the reason he's getting into the political power is so he can cover for his criminal endeavors. We don't have to get that situation because we've seen how bad it happens in other countries, and we can skip that here. And he said that. He said, look, we don't have to go through that. We don't have to go through what other countries went through, like just because we have that example. Those countries didn't have that example. But at the same point, how do the people know when you have this universal suffrage thing, let alone the leaders, let alone the regular people who, like, that's the thing, the regular people, the wananchi, the people of the country, that's what the wananchi means, people of the country, and citizenry in Swahili is wananchi. So the citizens, first of all, there's a lot more tribalism in Kenya than there is on the straight lines. It's like, I'm going to vote for this tribe because it's this tribe. People from kids, I've heard stories of kids, preteens, kids talking about how we need to pray for the opposition party because they're evil. I've had stories of wives in Nairobi, there's more intertribal marriages where some wife or some husband will go to the wife or their husband or their spouse and say, how can you vote for that person? That person is the devil. That person is evil. You have situations like that where that's how the tribal thing is. And you look at United States of America, same thing. Different things happen for the same reasons, same things happen for different reasons. There's also tribalism there. There's people, how many relationships have broken up over that? I have some people who are more supporters of Donald J. Trump, more towards the right politically, more conservative. And we've been talking about different friendships and different relationships, approaching people, making new friendships, and being more open about your conservatism and seeing what happens from it. But there are people who will just completely recoil from you. There are people who will look at you like you are the devil, literally Hitler. That's a thing that happens. Here, people are still more religious, so they'll go with that. They'll say, yes, you are the devil. They'll just go out and outright say you are Satan's spawn by supporting this person. In the United States of America, it would be like you are Hitler, because I guess the religiosity is not as strong there with some of these people that are saying that, especially people on the left. But you see those two similar things. So I'm going to be talking about a few things. I'm going to try to cover this. I'm going to actually try and see if I can find out where it is. Right now it's in Uhuru Park. As I said, if Hillary Clinton decided to hold her inauguration, a symbolic inauguration in the mall, how would that be taken by the United States populace? Right now, Raila Odinga and the NASA party is planning on holding an inauguration in Uhuru Park, which is pretty much like the mall here in Nairobi, in the capital city. It's pretty like the Central Park type thing. It's this major park in the center of Nairobi. So the opposition party, people in the Jubilee Party and other people in the Kikuyu tribe have said, okay, we're actually trying to rent this Uhuru Park out so we can give free circumcisions to anyone that wants to come. Now, there's a lot of things going in this. I've been taking pictures of different places. There's signs all over the place. Oh, medical this, free voluntary circumcision. Imagine if you had a country where they're like, okay, I don't know if they could have this in the country, but there's probably countries where this happens. But imagine if this was a situation where they're like, oh, we're going to disrupt your political event here so we can give free female genital mutilation or free FGM to the women that want it. People in the world would flip out. But since it's males being circumcised. Oh, yeah, that's okay, whatever. That's just a small aside. Just seeing how open they are, and that's one thing I've said. Any country that does have FGM also has male genital mutilation. United States of America still legally allows you to mutilate the privates of your child, and that's a separate thing here. But anyway, coming back to this thing. So they're trying to do that. If they actually hold a thing, I might actually just go out and check it out. These things normally get a lot more hectic than your average protest in the United States of America. Your average political situation. There's rocks thrown, the police are throwing rocks, and there's like things. So there's a high chance of getting arrested, getting injured, and things like that when you go to these kind of things. So I'll test the waters, but over the next couple of days, I'm going to talk to you guys more about what I've seen. I'm also going to try to educate myself more on what's going on politically in Kenya. I do understand living in different countries. It's kind of like I have different operating systems depending where I am. And then sometimes when I move back or move to one place, I'm still running on the operating system of the other place. And it's hard to start running the software and start running the information that's going on in this place. Or I think I explained it more where I have a computer desktop that I keep here, and it has an older operating system on it, and I'll come back and then they'll have older files that I haven't opened in a while because I'll save the files and move it with my laptop. So you come back here and you're like, okay, can I really use these files again? Do I really need to open these files even though I've renewed them, I've been using them now, they've changed due to the use that it's had in this other place. So it's kind of a tough thing for me sometimes trying to be like, okay, I understand what's going on here. And it also makes me relate also to some people politically who are in the United States of America, yet are detached from it, where I'm kind of here in Kenya right now. I'm a Kenyan citizen, but most of my life has been in the United States of America, and I have a lot of more interest in what's happening politically there. So I can kind of understand how some people in the United States of America might not feel like they're part of the country, so they can kind of be detached and think like, we need to change United States of America. This is more people on the left. I think I can kind of relate somewhat to why they don't necessarily have that strong attachment to something being American. What is American? Is there an American culture? Can you actually make America great again? Is America ever great? Because that's one thing I'm asking. Is Kenya a great country? Does Kenya have the potential to be great? Some of the things that are happening in it, are they positive or negative? So one of my regular commenters asked me some questions about some things that I'm going to research. I'm going to try to research some of the history of how Kenya became independent, some of the things that happened in there. And I should just try to talk to people who have been living in Kenya more, who feel that nationality, because I think that's one thing that's very different that people need to understand, I think, a lot with developing countries. And I think they're starting to understand more about their own countries, that nationality isn't really that strong here. people don't hold themselves on nationality. It's more me family, then tribe, then clan, and then maybe nationality comes in after that. Some situations they like the sports team. They're more a fan of the sports team than they are actually of the country itself. Yet in the United States of America, especially Americans, especially the conservative people, people in the flyover countries, in the flyover states, they actually have American, probably higher, it's tied with family. And they don't really have the sense of tribe because that's the thing that's kind of fallen apart. But they have other things that they build for that connection. Yet I think liberals, people in the cities, they don't even have the nationality thing. They have a situation where people are realizing they have more of a tribes, where there are more tribes and the different isms and the different like identity and special interest groups that they have, the identity politics. So you're seeing a kind of neo-tribalism that's going on there. So yeah, those are some of the things I'm going to be trying to discuss politically. There's a lot of people who have been talking about what's going on politically in the United States of America in a very specific way. So some of those, I'll be reading those and then kind of just giving you guys suggestions to go check out that material. Because some of the things I'll think of making a video, I'll think of talking about something, or I'll release a video and put it out, and then I'll watch some pundit, or I'll watch some other producer, some other content producer, and they put it in a similar way that I do, or even like a more succinct way than I'm doing it. So I'm going to try and do these. That's something that's more unique to me, something that's more personal with my life experience and my existence, and the things that maybe I can give some kind of different look on it, and hopefully also bridge some things where people here, people in other countries can also kind of understand what's happening in the United States of America, or just realize that the different things happen for the same reasons, or the same things happen for different reasons. We're all humans, we're all going through this little journey together, and I think this right here, this ability to have these conversations, this ability to share this information is a complete game changer. Because as I was saying before, I don't know if I finished that thought, but as I was saying before, just because Kenyans have the example of the United States of America doesn't mean they know what the United States of America was about. They don't know why the United States of America became the way it is right now. A lot of people in the United States of America clearly don't understand what the Constitution was. I have this one video called The Declaration of Your Independence, which I really suggest you guys check out. I might need to re-release it and put an intro in it because I just go directly into it. Where I read the Declaration of Independence, I read through it, and it's a great document. But I went through and I changed it around to the Declaration of Your Dependence, because I think a lot of people in the United States of America and the West in general seem to be going backwards on the things that made the West, the freedoms that made the West what it is, made it what people should emulate or want to learn from, or what has given us so many positives in this world. So people kind of going out and saying, instead of declaring their independence, they're now declaring their dependence. They're saying, take us back into shackles, take these freedoms away from us because of lack of knowledge of what they have. So let me know what you guys think about some of the things that I've said here. Let me know also if you guys have questions about Kenya, about certain countries. I have a relatively international background and know some friends in different places and can pick their minds in different places. So wherever you're from, if you have stories and ideas that you have about other places, or you think, oh, this is like this here, how is it there? Do you think this can work there? This worked here, why isn't it working there? Let me know these questions. I think these are kind of interesting things that I would enjoy kind of researching and finding out information about, or reaching out to people and trying to see what they have to say about that. But specifically, if you have questions about Kenya and you're from another country, let me know. I'll try to find people to answer those. If you're Kenyan and you have questions about the United States of America, which I have a lot of experience with, please let me know and I'll try to answer those myself, or have some of my friends and things there try to answer those. I think we can start a dialogue, start a conversation, and understand each other better. So yeah, that's it for now. Links below to the merchandise store. Like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to open a Patreon or some kind of donation thing soon, so I can try to make this. I'm a fan of capitalism. Let's try and make this more financially positive for me, and that will also give me more time, more incentive to actually spend more time and research into some of these things and provide you guys with a better product and more information. I think it's important. If you guys think it's important too, you'll be able to let me know by donating and giving me money and giving me your input in that way, and then I'll reciprocate with information and ideas, and we can grow this into something bigger. So yeah, like, share, and subscribe. This is Silas. Links below. Goodbye. This is the street I was walking down on, and coming up on the side of the street, there's some guy who's kind of just laying there, kind of disheveled. Looks like he might have been a drunk or something. But when you have this universal suffrage thing, we both have the same vote in the Kenyan elections as Kenyan citizens over a certain age. Now, I'm not more qualified to vote about Kenya because I'm quote unquote educated and this man is just there on the side of the street. He may know more about Kenya or at least have more want to live in Kenya than I do. But then I wonder, is there a way to get this man to have knowledge about what politics are to the point where he can be a more educated voter?